Maya Fey is one of the most quietly tragic characters in the Ace Attorney Trilogy. She loses almost everyone in her life before she's even an adult. In this video, I'll be taking a look at the character of Maya Fey. We start with the infamous DL6 incident. No, even before that. Maya Fey was born to Misty Fey and an unnamed father. Her father died while Maya was still young, the first in a long string of losses for Maya. Okay, now we can begin with the DL6 incident. Maya's mother was called to channel the spirit of a murder victim who definitely didn't have any important kids. Said murder victim 100% accurately revealed who killed him, but the murderer got off by pleading insanity. Some guy named Red White got a hold of the fact the police used a spirit medium and leaked it, ruining the reputation of Misty and the Karain channeling technique. Misty Fey subsequently left Karain village, leaving Maya and her older sister Mia behind. At a young age of 3 at most, Maya Fey was now left without a father or a mother. As a result of her mother leaving, Mia Fey would also end up leaving Karain village to become a lawyer and investigate what happened to cause her mother to leave. The sisters were still in contact, until, of course, years later, Mia Fey was murdered by the same man who caused Misty Fey to disappear. And now, Maya was left alone. Even worse, Red White left evidence framing her, and Maya Fey was arrested, left to grieve in jail. This is when we first meet Maya Fey through the eyes of Phoenix Wright. Just after Mia's murder, Phoenix talks to Maya, but doesn't get much due to the fact that she's an emotional wreck. We don't get much of the typical happy-go-lucky Maya Fey that we'll come to know later. Skipping ahead, Wright eventually takes her case and miraculously wins it, putting Red White behind bars for good. After the trial, Mia writes Maya a letter telling her to take care of Phoenix for her. I think that Mia actually meant the inverse. With both her mother and sister gone, Maya has no one. Remember, at this point, Pearl Fey wasn't even a twinkle in Capcom's eyes, and even then, Mia wants Phoenix to look out for her little sister, something that Pearl obviously can't do in the same way. Throughout the rest of the game, we get pretty familiar with Maya as a character. She's a happy, chipper girl who uses her ability to channel Mia to its fullest extent. However, to me, her attitude in this game is sort of all an act, a way to cope with the loss of her sister. This is made especially apparent during Turnabout Goodbyes. You see, in the final investigation of Turnabout Goodbyes, Nick and Maya head down to the police records room to look over an old case, as Wright believes it will help convict the true killer in the DL6 incident. They run into their rival prosecutor Manfred von Karma, who has taken all of the DL6 evidence away. He draws a stun gun, and Maya lunges at him, but both her and Wright end up getting hit with it. Von Karma escapes with all the evidence. This breaks Maya. Maya had spent the entire game trying to cope with the loss of her sister. She spends the full game dedicating herself to helping Phoenix, taking care of him just as Mia told her to. Once she fails at that, she feels like she has nothing left. She can't even channel her sister for help at this point. She feels useless. Of course, we, the player, and Phoenix, know the true effect that Maya had on Nick, even past just channeling her sister. The obvious thing to think of is how she managed to steal one piece of evidence from Von Karma, a bullet which ends up winning them the case. But also, if you think about it, Maya is the reason that Nick takes on 2 of his 4 cases in this game, and his first 2 without Mia. I mean, the reason Red White ended up killing Mia is because he had a wiretap on her phone and he heard her talking with Maya about some evidence against him. For Turnabout Samurai, she basically drags Nick into the case. The morning after Turnabout Goodbyes, Maya leaves, leaving Nick with only a letter. Phoenix chases her down at the train station, they have a little heart-to-heart, and Phoenix proves that she is useful to him by showing her the bullet she took from Von Karma, assuming the player actually presents that evidence. Moving on to Justice for All, Maya Fey's character is set in stone in this game, and for the next game for that matter. Canonically, Phoenix first runs into her when she invites him to Karain village. In peak Maya Fey fashion, she is immediately caught up in a murder case and ends up getting arrested. Her and Nick share another heart-to-heart in the detention center. Maya reveals that she's scared and asks Nick for help. Nick manages to win the case and proves that 2 people, one of which being Maya's aunt, are the true masterminds of the crime. Maya remarks that every time she's involved in a trial, she loses someone close to her. First her sister, and now her aunt. Of course, it isn't all sad for Maya. In this case, we meet Pearl Fey, her little cousin who is also a spirit medium. As Maya is, in the defendant's chair for this case, Pearl channels Mia instead. This means Maya finally gets to meet her sister again in the end. A very nice moment. Throughout the rest of Justice for All, and even the trilogy, Phoenix and Pearl become Maya's own little family, something Maya hasn't felt in over a year now, unless you count her crazy murderer aunt, which I don't. Of course, there is one other case that people think of when they think Maya Fey, and no, it isn't Bridge to the Turnabout. Farewell My Turnabout is, in my opinion, the last stage of Maya Fey's development as a character, and she takes that same character into the final case of Trials and Tribulations. Alright, so in this case, Maya ends up getting kidnapped by an assassin. I won't get into the details of this case because it doesn't matter, but what does matter is what Maya goes through while she's kidnapped. So obviously while kidnapped, Maya is starving and dehydrated, and she's probably also terrified and incredibly anxious. But through all of this, she still manages to channel Mia for help. Remember back to Turnabout Goodbyes when she couldn't channel Mia? Well now, a year and a few months later, she manages to channel Mia through all of that. She does this again almost a year later in Bridge to the Turnabout. Now while this case has Maya as an attempted victim, she doesn't actually play a massive role in the grand scheme of things. She has a role, yes, but not a huge one. The case sort of happens around her, which obviously wasn't the original plan, but it's what ends up happening. Back on track, she once again finds herself in a jam and manages to channel her sister, who once again gives her the help that she needs. A stark difference in her character from Turnabout Goodbyes. Maya Fey is one of the most quietly tragic characters in the Ace Attorney trilogy. She loses almost everyone in her life before she's even an adult. But however, she fights through self-doubt and grief to become a strong young woman by the end of the second game. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you liked this video. Peace.